So I've just been sitting here drinking my coffee and finishing my edits. Apparently I did pick a pretty good campsite. I've had a lot of traffic going back and forth, presumably hunters, but no gunshots whizzing over my head yet. The ground here is sloped just fine. The problem is it's really, really lumpy. It has me kind of missing my air mattress, which is rare. So the iPhone satellite messaging warns you that trees and buildings and things like that can block the satellite signal. I'm able to get messages in and out from tree cover. That hasn't blocked it, just canyon walls on occasion. And here, it depends. I could actually follow the satellite as it was going out of view. Not the best spot, not the worst spot. It worked. I'll take what I can get in the dark like this. There seems to be like a cattle area up there, so I am butting up against the edge of that private property. I am kind of dealing with a high amount of frustration here over my foot. I mean, I'm managing, but it feels like I've been managing for weeks. Whenever I got sick in Colorado Springs and then came back out. This is why I decided to stop. I'm pretty sure that's the National Forest boundary. In a little bit, I'm going to go from White Mountain National Forest or White River National Forest into Grand Mesa proper. So foot-wise, it's basically my left at this point. And going off the assumption it's some sort of tendon thing, those are always a pain, take a long time to heal. So all I can do is tell myself, well, I'm babying it the best I can, and one day I'm going to be walking along and realize I'm not feeling it. But again, this has felt like a very, very long time dealing with this. I mean, in general, I love being out, I love walking. It just gets hard when it's constant pain. I had a couple of years where it basically hurt to walk due to my knee issue. That was after the mountaineering fall and before the surgery and rehab. And I still went out because being in pain and being out is better than sitting around in civilization and going crazy. It's just the constant pain every step for 10, 12 hours a day just really starts to get to me. But hey, unless it gets worse to the point where I feel like I'm doing damage, I am not intending to come off trail, so is what it is. Obviously, I can make 20-some mile days sometimes, other times less. Last night, I was tripping over cows in the dark all over the place. They tend to have these huge reflective eyes when your headlamp hits them. I also think I saw like a juvenile bear. It's possible it was a cow, but it seemed to be moving more bear-like when it was coming across the road. I did have one campsite that I had considered, but it was one of those where you're basically resting your head on a cow pie. And I mean, hey, they're soft and warm, so there's that. One of the hunters I was chatting with yesterday, actually, so here's the property line, was ranting about that, saying that he used to hunt over here and didn't anymore because he just hated hunting in the cows. The smell, the flies, all of that. Obviously, with all the stuff I've done, I'm not overly bothered by cows. I am, however, not the biggest fan of mixing cows and water. You know, it's one thing, a cow pie that's just drying out. It's another if the entire water source is just soup. And they will literally sit in the water source and just crap everywhere. Part of why I pushed after dark last night is I wanted a water fill up, and while I don't know exactly what was going on upstream of what I filled up on, the creek earlier had a series of beaver dams and cow-fouled puddles, and I didn't really want to take out downstream of that if I didn't have to. Theoretically, the filter should get any of the bacteria, etc. out, but that doesn't mean it gets all the particulates and everything. I have drank some hellaciously bad water when I had to, but around here I kind of figured, okay, just keep going and you'll find something coming off somewhere. My biggest concern last night setting up there is there was a use trail, and I figure, okay, use trails around here are probably cow trails. And I've never had a herd of cows, come like straight through camp, any of the places I've been camping. But it is always one of those things I wonder about. The clouds are looking more interesting this morning. I did text a friend to ask, and they were going to check on specifics for this area, but they said the Colorado high country is supposed to get snow again on Saturday. From what I can see, this section will get up around 10 or 11 at least one more time, probably more, and I'm just missing the climb. And then towards the end of the section, as I'm getting to Grand Junction, I drop back to 4,600 feet. Obviously, once I get into Utah, it is going to be a different climate zone, a little less likely to have to suffer from heavy snow until I get into one or two of the mountain ranges, maybe. Mostly I'm just expecting it to be cold. So obviously, like, the last month has been a pretty big slowdown just due to the injury and everything like that. At some point, it is quite possible winter overtakes me. I have enough gear where I can survive a fair storm, but there is always a limit. I am keeping that in mind as I'm looking at each hop. Obviously, if I am 10 miles in and I get snowed, big deal, I can just hike out wherever. I endeavor not to be one of those people that leaves, you know, with insufficient food, insufficient gear, and then somebody has to come, like, go to heroics to pluck me out of the middle of nowhere. That has always been somewhat of a pet peeve. And I mean, a lot of the times when people get killed out here, you get a lot of couch folks who tend to like to fearmonger about, oh, somebody was killed there because they were caught in winter. You look closer though, and there are usually a good amount of factors feeding into it. It wasn't they made just one mistake. It is they made multiple mistakes, and then they kept making mistakes, and if they'd done anything different, likely would have survived. I mean, see that guy that died in northern New Mexico a number of years ago in that outhouse. There are absolutely circumstances that can come out of nowhere. You know, there's always a chance you're going to get killed without any recourse. I know people that have been walking on the sidewalk and had relatives killed that way, just due to cars going out of control. But in general, I mean, that has been one of the appeals of backpacking to me. You have the things you need with you, and it gives you the flexibility to make at least reasonable decisions. Now, in the thru hiking community, that does occasionally get counteracted by people trying to stay super, super light, but most of the trails are fairly accessible. And I am guessing these guys are used to being fed. I don't have any food. Come on. Mush. Mush like Blondie. Or at the very least, don't cow kick me, please. Speaking of food, I seem to have judged this carry pretty well. I'm not going to have to scrimp or anything, and I don't think I'm going to finish with a ton of extra. The only thing is the dinners. That's what tends to get you on those little stores. You know, they didn't have backpacker meals. They didn't have Northsides. The meal I had last night was, you know, instant mashed potatoes. Now, I eat those quite a lot. However, the normal brand we get has salt and seasoning. These were plain and, quite frankly, pretty disgusting. And I don't normally carry any sort of sauce or spices or anything like that, because quite frankly, most meals and things have more than enough as is. Way back in the day, I followed what I thought was conventional wisdom, and I had like taco packets and things like that with me. But for how I make dinners, how I do dinners, they just weren't useful. That was right up there with keeping a paperback, a thing of cards, and a sewing kit with me at all times. I could do a whole mini lecture on backpacking advice that I see given commonly that I have found just wrong, or at least for me, useless. Because there is a lot of it. The one that I always go off on is the duct tape on the trekking poles. Now, I have tape on my poles but it's just to mark them so I can tell them apart from others, and so I know which is left or right. The conventional wisdom of, well, put it on your trekking pole or your Nalgene bottle, that way if you need it, you have it. Problem with that is you are re-sticking tape, and when you do that, it gets weaker. I have experimented with it a lot. I have had to help people out who, followed that advice, and then they needed to tape a blister or something. Never mind, duct tape isn't the best for blisters. And when they peel it off of the roll on the Nalgene bottle, it just doesn't stick real well. It's now like misshapen and stretched. This is why REI in places have the little roll of duct tape, without any sort of middle that you can just stick in your 10 essentials. Or go with the athletic tape, climbing tape, like I use. That has cloth, and so it breathes a little more. But hey, what do I know? I tend to be slightly specialized these days, even beyond your typical Triple Crown person. The Triple Crown trails, you have trail stops. They know what you're doing. It's a little different than walking across Kansas, having the local sheriff come by because they don't understand what you're doing, and having to explain at every random gas station, no, not homeless. Well, kind of homeless. Homeless with a momentum, doing this big thing. So out of long habit, whenever I get a view off in the distance where I think there might be cell, basically a different aspect than what I've been getting, I tend to check, and sure enough, I have 2 bars of LTE. The ironic problem with this satellite messaging is if you have 1 bar of LTE, but it's not getting any data in or out, it won't go into satellite mode. You have to have absolutely nothing. That has annoyed me a few times so far. Okay, apparently this is the spot where it's known you get cell. I just had a couple of black powder hunters come by and chatted with me for a while we were letting our phones sync. I was able to touch base with my parents and kind of make plans. They are probably going to come see me in eastern Utah unless the weather really changes. They'll bring the phone somewhere around the first week of October. I was also able to get my new batch of podcasts. I got spoiled for the first, almost all of this trail until central Colorado, just because I always had cell. It was fun getting to chat with those guys. I've had a few hunters stop and say hello. Mostly they just want to make sure everything's okay and that I didn't flip an ATV off into a ditch or something. Those guys were saying that, oh yeah, they never see backpackers up here. I was able to ask a couple of hunting questions also. Per what I got from them, it was probably gunshots that were going off at camp the other morning. I mean, that makes more sense than explosions. You figure if you're hearing explosions, it's probably drunk people at night, not first thing in the morning, right? They also said that Grand Mesa actually has more moose than anywhere else in Colorado. So there's a chance they may see more moose. They saw some last night right around dark, and so they were looking around seeing if they could reacquire them. So there's Haystack that I came around last night. Campsite with toilet. It's hard to pick out the hills unless I'm looking really close. This is actually a good climb. I keep running into friendly hunters out here. See, this is the problem. I start at a reasonable time, I go all day, and I'm like, oh, I got plenty of daylight. And then I get out a little late because I'm doing some stuff, and social butterfly delay after social butterfly delay. But hey, it does put kind of a spring in my step. Yesterday, it seemed like most people were just waving, and I couldn't get like a 2-word exchange with anybody. I am now in Grand Mesa National Forest proper. I will be in here for a good while. I think I've got another 40 miles or so to that convenience store. So it will get a little more populated. Well, I guess a little more established. It looks like there may be a campground or two over there. All the hunters that keep stopping keep acting surprised that I'm walking around here with a backpack, because I guess this is mostly like hunter ATV territory. Dirt roads seem to just go everywhere. They are the occasional trail. But yeah, it's nothing but hunters. Those guys were nice enough to give me some water. The guys I talked to at the cell phone point actually offered me, and I said no. And then I was regretting it, because there have been a few of the earthen tanks, basically, you know, a mud pit with cow plop everywhere, but nothing that I wanted to filter out of. I can basically stretch my water pretty far right now, just due to the nature of, you know, it's relatively cool and not super arid. So I'm not worrying about it too much. I was down to like a quarter of a liter the last couple hours last night. I just don't like camping without water or being restrained on water, because that's the best way to spend half the night awake, feeling thirsty, feeling like I can't take a drink. So those guys I was just talking to were elk archery hunters. The first were on a moose tag, which is apparently really hard to get. The guy was 70, and he said something like people are usually on the list for 30 some years. And then there's the damn cows, which nobody wants but seem to be everywhere. Yeah. Been seeing a good amount of these guys. Unfortunately, a lot of them were run over and killed. Those guys even knew that I was doing the American Discovery Trail. One guy said that he had run into somebody a week before who was doing it, who started in New Hampshire. I don't know who that would be though. But again, there are people section hiking, doing different things, so who knows. They also topped me off on water again, so at this point I should be pretty good through evening, as long as one of the creeks towards the end of the day is running. All the friendly hunters, none of which have had hand sanitizer. That's the one thing I'm running a little short on at the moment. I have this habit of saying no to things. Yeah, and exes would say that I may have a contrary nature, which I of course disagree with. But people offer me something and I often go, oh, no, I'm good. And those guys at the top there had offered me some chips, and that is all I've been thinking about for like the last 2 hours. My snacks this time are a little on the hippy dippy healthy side, so they don't have quite the salt content I was looking for. Apparently taking up cattle herding. 6 o'clock, so I have maybe another hour and a half. I am eyeing a couple of water sources that I hope are not completely cow-fouled. And if I can hit 20 miles today, I think I'll call that good. It's been a pretty good day, but I keep finding friendly people to talk to. Also, like I was telling the last guy, I just get frustrated. I don't feel stronger. This has just been a grind. Lots of up and down dirt roads. The trail wasn't real fast going. Actually, Mid-morning today was a nice flat road that just kind of kept on going, but I guess it's just a downgrade after the prettiness of the CDT and follow on into Crested. Okay, 6:30. Normally I would try and hold off till a little later, but considering the quality of water, this is going to be my fill up for the night. Only a little cow poopy. There's a older Minnesotan couple who are camping over there. I've just been chatting with them. They gave me fresh apples. I have asked a few people for hand sanitizer because I'm a little low. Haven't had any luck. Part of me really wants to start baking like dinners from people because the stuff I got out of Redstone has been pretty bland and atrocious, but I don't know, I got more pride than that. Sadly, I pretty much burned the last of my daylight chatting with them, so I'm gonna have to set up pretty quick here. Hey. Really wonder who sets these things. Somebody should have given me a pile of stickers to place while I'm doing this. So I'm currently a little over 20 miles. Again, I'm not pushing too hard today. I'm fairly happy with that. There was a steep climb up here I was looking at possibly getting past, but I think I just talked my way out of the window for that. Okay, I found a spot in the trees. It was actually a little bit tricky, not because there's not good ground. This is really easy to get stakes in, but a good number of these trees are dead. And I went to set up there, I went to set up there, only to find things that looked a little too risky. So I should be good here. Sometimes it can be hard to tell, but yeah. Anyway, pretty good day overall. Lots of friendly folks, which always cheers me up. And I have at most 2 more horrible dinners before I resupply and hopefully get something better. Home sweet home.